Welcome, everybody. It's FIDE time again. And to spend the next hour debating the ins and out of FIDE, I have Mr. Dodgy with me. So, welcome, Dodgy.
Thanks, Peter. It's good to see you again. I hope you're having a good week. I'm very glad to be back at FIDE time.
Yeah, that's great. So, let's just get right to it. No more pleasantries. What happened since last time? Well, you are sort of the world's leading Kramnik block expert. So, update us there.
That's true. I'm not entirely sure where we left off the last time because Kramnik has written many blogs since then and also several videos. But he has continued to demand evidence from chess.com that they should investigate Nakamura and that their investigation should have a conclusion that he enjoys. I think that's the fairest way to say it without getting sued, because he's also threatened to sue anyone who says that he has accused Nakamura of cheating. So I would like to make it clear he hasn't accused Nakamura of cheating. He has only heavily insinuated it.
So, that is the balance that we have to debate if Nakamura has been cheating, but also we cannot say that Kramnik thinks he has. Or yeah, that's where we are legally speaking,
Are,
right?
are we allowed to say that we think Nakamura was cheating? He won't sue
Oh
us, right? He'll never know. So
no, no, no. I think we have a juridical safe space here, the two of us, so that should be fine. Well, I want to state one thing first. For me, it's a bit painful talking about Kramnik like this. I was such a huge fan of him in my youth. I named a cat after him. I played all his openings. He was basically sort of the mental overlord of chess understanding and such. But now it's gotten to basically how I guess many had it with Fischer, that you just have to separate the chess player from the person. I still like him, when I've met him as a person to some extent, but it becomes difficult defending him anymore. I mean, it seems to be gibberish is too strong, but pretty weird. I think chess.com also made a statement, right? They actually said it makes no sense.
yeah, chess.com did make a statement, and they kind of made it clear that they had investigated Nakamura's games many times. And I my understanding, and I'm not too kind of in touch with the fair play team at chess.com, but my understanding is that they do pay very close attention to Nakamura and Carlsen's games because they're a very good benchmark for what is kind of possible for a human. And not to
Hmm.
say that no one can play better than those guys, but it's clear that if you're doing better than they are consistently, then we should definitely do a further investigation because
Well, but I would almost argue. I mean, well, what is it they're saying? I mean, Nakamura and Carlsen must have been flagged at points. I mean, else it's almost insulting to their level, right? I mean, there must be some times where the computer system say, "Okay, this guy is suspicious." What chess.com means is that, well, they have looked at it and concluded that okay, this guy is not cheating after inspection, right? Not that they haven't never been flagged. I would assume.
oh yeah, for sure. I mean, they've also been reported. Like I'm 100% sure that Hikaru has been reported by people, and I would assume probably someone has reported Magnus at some point.
It would be weird not if someone not have thought that was funny. Yeah. So
Yeah, but like they pay attention to these things, and they also like analyze the difference between their over the board games and their online games. And my understanding from the statement is there's no evidence to suggest there's a huge discrepancy there. So yeah, Fabiano actually mentioned it again on his C Squared podcast with Christian, and Fabi, like, I don't agree when Fabi said that 50% of people could be cheating online. I think that was a massive overestimation. But I do think that when he talked about chess.com ratings, which is a lot of what Kramnik's analysis is based on, when he said they don't really mean anything. And I kind of agree with that. Not that the ratings are totally meaningless, but I think there can be such a wide variety in, for example, just a 2900 player. A 2900 player on chess.com in Blitz could be a 2700 FIDE player, or it could be a 2500 FIDE player who is very, very fast. and
Yeah, but
they're
that would
just
be my
massively
questions.
different players.
I
Like,
mean, don't you? Yeah, but I mean, chess.com ratings are pretty good at measuring what they're supposed to. Your ability to play this kind of blitz games, I assume, right?
yeah, but even blitz games are very different.
Mm-hmm.
A blitz game 3+0 increment compared to 3+2 increment is a very different game of chess. And
Yeah,
I
I see.
think the like Hikaru and Naroditsky are almost in a league of their own at 3+0,
Mm-hmm.
whereas at 3+2 it's a different game. Like, so
I believe you. I have very little experience with that, but I've heard people say the same. They also say that, well, 1-0 and 1-1 is two completely different games, right? And if they are rated similarly, of course, you can see things like that. Well, of course, with this kind of ratings, if your idea is to set a record, I assume also you can start picking your opponents to some extent, right?
yeah, and this has been Hikaru's main. I don't even want to say defense because I really don't think he has a huge amount to defend. But his one of his explanations is that he farms people,
Mm-hmm.
and he's been very
He's
clear
saying that
that.
openly.
Oh yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, that's what he does on stream. He'll sit. He's quite happy. Like, I don't think it's a confession or anything. Like, he does it openly on stream. He'll play. Maybe he plays an international master. They play two
Mm-hmm.
games and he wins both games, but they're kind of close. Like, maybe gets to the end game, he tricks him in the end game, something like that. And quite often he'll say, "Okay, this was too close. No more games with you because this is a good
Yeah.
player." And then he'll play another IM or lower rated grandmaster, and he'll crush in 3 games in a row. 25 moves, mates the guy, and he's like, "Okay, we're playing 20 games of chess now,"
It
and like
almost,
that's what he does.
I mean, it almost sounds like poker, right? I mean, in chess, it feels, a bit unethical pouncing on the weak guys. In poker, it's completely different. You want to find a soft table and you want to play there as much as possible. And you're basically saying that's what he's doing here. Well, he's just openly stating, okay, this guy I can beat a lot of times. Let's collect he seems overrated to me. Let's collect as much as possible. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he likes to get his rating as high as possible. That's it's good stream content.
Hmm.
He likes to adopt people, but he likes to beat them, 10 games in a row. That's also good stream content. Those videos always go up on YouTube. I adopted the Super Grandmaster or whatever. Beating someone 10 games in a row is always entertaining for the fans. And like this is what he does on stream, and like I think it's notable that it's only the streamers that really do this. Like
Okay.
Narodetsky does the kind of the same thing,
Hmm.
but the other top players that don't stream, like, why would they do it? Like, because it's not, it might be amusing to yourself, but like,
Yeah.
Magnus is not doing this. Alvarez is not doing this. Like,
No, but that's also they are playing chess for. Well, I understand for them having real competition is not so easy, but it has to be somewhat competitive in a way. The other guys are actually mainly creating content, is what you're saying. But also
yeah,
to understand the level of conspiracy theory. So we are debating that Nakamura is playing games that is filmed and broadcast live, right?
hmm
So we are
yeah. He,
arguing
he,
that.
as far as I know, he only plays on stream at this point. He said that it's been several years. I'm not sure if this is totally true because it seems wild to me. But he says he hasn't played off stream for several years. He thinks one of the early Champions Chess Tour events when he wasn't able to stream on Chess 24. I
Uh-huh.
think he said that was the last time he's actually played online off stream.
Almost sounds like Bud winning, though. Okay, I mean, this is I do this for work. It's certainly not pleasure in any way. But yeah, okay. No, but also, I mean, well, there is quite some evidence of how he's doing it. If he's actually managing to manipulate this, well, hats off. It's incredibly impressive. I really don't think it's the case, but it just, well, I'm basically giving away. I think it's close to physically impossible doing it, right? Also, things
I mean,
happen
it's there.
incredibly
There are always
fast.
possibilities to do it, but it just seems to me like at the moment, I don't think we've identified a motive, or Kramnik hasn't identified a motive because
Yeah.
I think financially it's not. It would be an incredible risk for Nakamura to do this, and I think in terms of ego, like I feel like he's proved like he isn't overperforming to what he's done in like over the board situations. So if he really wants to do this for ego, like you need to be destroying everyone. Like at this point, like that's for his ego to be bigger, he would have to be beating like Magnus 10 games in a row,
Yeah, yeah.
which isn't happening. Because, but we talked about this a little bit before we started recording, and I feel like Kramnik must have at some point in his life in chess played random blitz games with a grandmaster who he has felt like he just totally outclasses, and could maybe he hasn't actually sat there in an over the board setting and beat them 10 games in a row, but he must have played people that he feels like, okay, I could just, even though this guy's a 26, maybe even a 2700 grandmaster, he must feel like I mean, Kramnik does in interviews seem like he thinks he could beat people 10 games in a row anyway, but like he
Hmm.
must have had this experience, surely.
I'm sure. I mean, I've had the experience on both sides actually. So let me just mention the one where I had where I was the victim, right? I mean, I think at some point the Kashimov Memorial had finished in Azerbaijan, and well, there is some kind of closing banquet that ends with people playing blitz and drinking and things like this. And I think one of the Azeri players, I'm not sure who it was of them actually, but he was really crushing Bakro, who was sort of drunk, and I mean with a heavy score. And Bakro said, "Okay, Peter, I need some confidence back. Let's play." So I was playing Bakro, who was just visibly horribly drunk, and he was beating me easily. So I'm just saying that there is many layers. I mean, there was someone who could trash Bakro, who could then trash me, who was still a decent 2-6 player at that point. And while in regular chess you can compensate for being slow or being, well, at that point I was older. I was a good blitz player when I was young, but when you come to blitz, suddenly the levels become much clearer in a way. And of course there will be someone you completely own. Also sometimes you will own someone completely that day, and next day it might actually be different in a way. And I agree with you, Kramnik must definitely have seen that for, I don't know if you've seen it from both sides. At some point, I even had Magnus and Kramnik was meeting before World Rapid and Blitz and playing some Blitz games there. But I think Kramnik did decently well. So maybe Kramnik has never been completely destroyed by someone. But of course, he must have destroyed somebody himself. So I get your point. It's kind of weird that he doesn't find it possible.
Yeah, and also like the other thing is like a lot of these people that Hikaru is playing, they're not actually grandmasters,
No.
which to me just makes like international masters and FIDE masters. They're good chess players, but I will never be surprised that any international master losing 20 games to Hikaru. Like it doesn't
If it
shock me in
becomes
any way.
2400 against 2800. I mean, even the rating system is saying now we are off the charge of, we basically just assign it 0.08 as an expected score in classical chess, right?
Hmm.
And while in classical chess, you have much more time. Of course, if you start playing 3-2 or 3-0, I mean, why would they stand a chance? I mean, of course, I mean, no. Well, we even debated on the previous version of the Chicken Chess podcast. If I played 100 bullet games with Nakamura, I mean, my two former colleagues was basically betting on I would get literally 0 points, and it cannot be ruled out. It's actually that difficult because you have to do things so quickly, and it might easily go wrong. I don't know, but you seem to think the same, right?
I think it's possible. I think realistically you probably get a couple of points, but like even
Maybe.
then, you know,
Yeah, but it
it's
also
still
depends
a
on
lot of
how
wins
how
for him in a row.
motivated is your opponent in a way. Is he willing to flag me 100% all the time? I mean, in a normal match like this, okay, you'll say this is a draw. But if Nakamura thinks, okay, yeah, I'm just gonna win on time in this ending because I can make 400 moves, right? I mean,
Yeah, I mean that's one of the other things is that like often we'll see speed chess championship for example, where it's like kind of the most common format for the top players to play long matches against each other. And for a start, there's an increment, so it's hard to flag people. But secondly, the goal of those matches is to win the match.
yeah.
So once you're up like 2 or 3 points, you're quite happy to make a draw every game. There's no reason not to make a draw every game because you're getting close. The goal is to win the match. It's not to destroy your opponent 10 times in a row.
Hmm.
And when Hikaru's making content, his goal is to
Yeah.
beat people 10, 20, 30 times in a row. Like, and this is what he does. So yeah, I'm kind of surprised that Kramnik is so shocked by these results.
Hmm.
He does keep hinting that he has more information that he's going to drop, but at the moment he hasn't really, you know, shown us the smoking gun.
No.
But we'll see.
What is your general impression? Is there anybody on Kramnik's side?
I think there are definitely people who have been suspicious of Nakamura. over
Okay.
the past couple of years, because I mean, I just find it very difficult to kind of get on board with. I mean, I think like Nakamura 3 or 4 years ago was maybe not exactly done as a top player, but he was
We,
nowhere
we,
near his
we
peak.
really thought so. I mean, no
Yeah, okay, but
disrespect.
he was still like 27-40 or something. Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not.
But
I mean, he wasn't 28-10 or whatever he peaked at, but like, yeah, he was. It was clear he was on the decline,
yeah,
and
now I'm gonna. Well, I think at some point Magnus asked me, okay, today, 10 years ago, who was number two on the FIDE list? And I started coming with guesses, and at some point he said, no, it was Nakamura. People
okay.
get forget how good he is. Also, I mean, or he was at that point, and
Mhm.
also, I think in the sort of elite, he's never really been. Well, he thought number two was too high, and then he found his normal level. But seems like we underestimated him, right? He just seems like a massive entity at the moment. But it is strange for me how he's managed to improve like this. But I think maybe also chess has moved in his direction, right? He was always weak in opening preparation, but that started to matter much less. I mean, it's like suddenly that the skills Nakamura have has become much more in demand in the game, and I think that helps him a lot.
Yeah, but also like he spends more time in front of a chessboard than
Yeah,
probably any top player. Like, I mean,
no, it's a good
I'm sure
point.
other people are spending 8 hours a day in front of a chessboard, but Hikaru absolutely is for 8 hours a day. 3 years in a row. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, you could argue how useful that is, but I think a lot of the chess work he does is does
yeah,
seem to work. And the other side of it is, I think he's gained massive amounts of confidence that he'd. I think my impression, and so I've never like really played him, but my impression is that when he was young, he was super confident. One of the most confident
yeah.
players in the world, probably. And then at a certain point, there is a thing that seems to happen with people who get very good very young, and
Hmm.
at a certain point, they start to hit a wall where people are happy to make draws against them or not play for a win, and they find it very difficult to actually win games. And I think this is kind of a similar pattern that's happened with Rajabov, where he's
Uh-huh.
like when he was very good very young, and then as he got older, he got more and more solid, more and more just kind of accepting that he couldn't beat people, especially with black. And I think a similar thing happened to Hikaru, and it like for a confident player, I think that's very damaging
Hmm.
because you kind of lose belief in yourself because everyone is just able to make a draw at will, basically. And then with the pandemic and the rise of streaming, that kind of at least in the online world, it put Hikaru basically as the most famous chess player in the world for a couple of years. I think that's given a massive boost to his confidence,
Hmm.
and I think it's kind of it's made him reevaluate like how he feels about chess, and that he's got to the being the best in the world in this online area, whether it's just streaming, whether it's number of viewers, whatever. Like he's the best in the world at something, and I think it's something that's like changed in his brain. It's like, okay, I can be the best in the world at other
Well, that's
aspects
also
of chess.
changed his financial comfort, right? I mean, he doesn't have to play chess to earn money. It's my
Yeah, and
impression.
I think he's also talked about that he finds it much less stressful, which I guess is kind of surprising because he was always a pretty decent earner. I wouldn't imagine he was
Yeah,
really playing for his rent money exactly, but
there's still, I guess, there are still different flaws, right? No,
yeah.
for me, it was impressive that in Norway chess, we would come there before the round and get Magnus to the game. But you could see Nakamura actually doing stream just before the games, right? And that is quite, well, it gives away your priorities, right? I mean, he's not trying to sit there and remember his preparation. He's actually doing content, and that's number one. And he's able
Mhm.
to combine it, and that is impressive. It's interesting, well, you mentioned that he actually spends 8 hours a day of chess. I mean, it's a typical debate. Is it worse playing Blitz than not playing? And I really don't think so. Actually, it's a good point. He's just so much in touch with chess that it could actually, I mean, have. Well, maybe he would do even better if he worked 8 hours a day on chess, but he would get bored, so he couldn't. But being that much in touch with chess, being that much honing some kind of chess skill, and while it might not be one to one, is still quite something. I would say. So that is, oh, that is quite
Yeah, I mean,
impressive.
I think it's probably hard to replicate, but I think the it's very hard to argue with his results.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, I mean, if you're Kramnik, you can question his online results. That's fine, like whatever. But like, I don't think we can question his over the board results, and they've also been incredibly impressive. So
yeah. It strikes me as anything that He's become more realistic. I think he understands fully what he's good at and what he's not. When you see he's winning Norway chess, he just forces a draw with white against Magnus without any kind of shame in 10 minutes. And
Mhm.
he understands, okay, tomorrow we will be talking about something else. This is moderately embarrassing now, but that's how I'm going to do it. And I don't care because I'm not going to be the favorite if I try to beat Magnus. And why should I spend 4 hours on this? I mean, well, he just strikes me as incredibly realistic. And I mean, knowing yourself is a huge edge, obviously.
Yeah, and then he also qualified for the candidates through the Grand Swiss, which that for me that one wasn't a huge surprise because I feel like the Grand Swiss is a very good format for him. I think he's
Yeah,
had such good results in Gibraltar, winning it 3 times. I think in a big open he's always kind of one of the favorites.
but the only thing I would disagree with is that you talk about his good format. I mean, is there anything we haven't seen him do? I mean, he won. Okay, Norway chess, of course, also included players, but candidates he did pretty well as. I mean, maybe we just have to accept he's a pretty good chess player, right?
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear at this
Yeah,
point that yeah, I mean,
but
for me again, we talked about this last week. It's just very hard for me to believe that he's increased his level over the board at the same pace he's increased his level online,
yeah,
and then he somehow found two different ways to cheat because that's what the accusation has to be as well. He has to be cheating over the board if he's cheating online. Otherwise, it just makes no sense.
yeah.
He has to have elaborate methods to cheat in both
Yeah.
arenas, and it's okay.
But also, I mean, this idea of cheating online, I mean, you basically have to get the information and react within a split second. I'm not sure the brain is capable of doing that, to be honest. I mean,
Okay, I'll
and
agree with the accusations and say Nakamura's brain is one of the fastest. So if anyone can cheat, he can.
yeah, but I
Please
don't
don't sue
know.
me, Hikaru.
It strikes me that it's easier for him just to become better than chess and to get this thing going.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is kind of incredible technology that's somewhat wasted on Title Tuesdays.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
feel
yeah.
like we could be,
That is a yeah.
taking over
They're
different.
testing it out before they're using it somewhere that really matters. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
I
no,
mean, we
no.
could be taking over nation states with this.
Yeah, I don't know, but no. Anyway, should we move on to something else, but in the same ballpark? Yeah.
Yeah, let's go.
So, I mean, it almost felt like Niemann was missing the attention, but he suddenly got back into the debate, right? He had an amazing. I mean, well, it's not like his chess career had been that bad, but he had sort of ordinary results for a while. But then suddenly was an out of this world result, right? He made 8 out of 9 in Croatia.
He did make it out of 9, but was it so out of this world?
Again, rating perform. No, I mean it's not something we haven't seen before, perhaps. And the rating performance was good, but of course, when you get up to these almost 90% scores, well, the rating performance starts to accelerate, I think, and such. But it was a
Yeah.
good result. But of course, you could argue he played an event with ordinary 2-6 players, not the sharpest professionals out there, right?
Yeah, so he won the Tournament of Peace,
Uh-huh.
which, ironically, in Croatia, and he I don't think he was the top seed. I think he was the second top seed. The top seed was Korobov, and then the two other guys around his rating were Ivanchuk and Cheparinov. Cheparinov also had a very, very poor tournament for his standards. He finished on -4.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, that is weird, actually. But
he
yeah.
beat, 8 out of 9 is obviously an exceptional result, but he beat one player who was higher rated than him.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you look at the individual games, you would say, yeah, he has a good chance of winning this one and that one, and so on and so forth, right? So, no, I understand. We are not talking about, well, if Niemann made a 2950 performance in Weigense, it would be, we will raise more eyebrows right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But there was some insinuations. I think players are being very careful about what they say so they don't get sued for $100 million.
Very careful is too strong, but yeah.
But the organizers were maybe less careful. And I'm not sure if there was a translation error because it seemed like such an insane thing for an organizer to say that there were some indications that he cheated,
Yeah.
which was a I I saw it was reported in a Norwegian newspaper. I don't know if it was if it was maybe quoted from Croatian into Norwegian and then to English, and if this is like
You're saying Google Translate had a bad day and then it came out like this, yeah.
possibly, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
No, I also read it like that. We have some indications, but no evidence, and we don't know if someone will make a complaint or something like this. And I thought, okay, what does this mean? I mean,
Yeah, I thought that was a very bold statement
yeah,
for an organizer to make, not just the one of the players who I mean, I don't want to justify the players accusing people of cheating, but after you lose a game, people are mad, and these things do happen a lot. We have seen some prominent players lose games and
yeah,
not take it particularly well. So yeah, I don't know. He's playing in London at the moment. He's on +1.
yeah. It's a completely average and normal result. I mean, nothing good, nothing bad. I mean, he won one game where he bluffed quite successfully and then drew the rest.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's very difficult to say. I mean, I don't know. Did you look at the games from the
I
tournament of
looked at
peace?
the games. I wrote about it in my chess column, I think, and there were some nice games, but nothing. I mean, nothing out of this world. I would say it's not something where you say, "Okay, this is just amazing." I mean, he's playing good chess, and that's more or less it. And no, again, it's not something I will jump out and say this is insanely good. But well, I keep referring to that when the Olympiad where I mean Fella was convicted of cheating. I mean, I also thought no, there's nothing suspicious there. So I have basically given up detecting these things. But again, it's yeah, no, it's weird, but well, I think generally the chess world is in a pretty bad state, right? I mean, so many accusations. Basically, people feel it's impossible to prove anything, or it could be, of course, because nothing bad is happening and such. But well, there seems to be a lot of people who are suspicious, right? And,
There's definitely a lot of people that's suspicious, and I think the main thing that concerned me is that there was apparently very little anti-cheating
yeah,
restrictions. There was a delay on the broadcast, but I think one of the players said people weren't even being scanned for devices with a metal detector, which to me is pretty standard practice. I think at
but why
all
are they
top
not?
tournaments now.
I mean, it is some kind of a financial concern, isn't it? I mean, how do
The
you get this kind of equipment?
the metal detectors at least are pretty cheap, and that event was actually organised by the European Chess Union, so they have these things. I
So you're
mean,
saying
obviously,
it's not a massive thing like that? Okay.
no, they you can buy them on Amazon. Like they're not, and
Okay.
I think they're like players. The organizers do have an obligation to,
Hmm.
spend €50 on Amazon.
Okay, we're talking 50. I thought it's like equipment like in the airport, several thousand euros and stuff like this. No, we're talking
No, I
small.
mean these hand scanners, the metal detectors, they're pretty cheap. I
Okay.
mean,
And they
I think
work?
in St. Louis they had some
Yeah.
incredibly sophisticated device that they bought after the previous accusations,
Hmm.
but those are kind of rare. And I feel like a metal detector at least is the minimum,
Yeah.
and it should just be standard practice to put everyone's mind at rest.
Yeah.
And it does solve a lot of the kind of basic cheating cases where people just have a mobile phone.
Hmm.
Like these are that's kind of the standard thing that happens in open tournaments and stuff. And I feel like metal detectors at least pick that up, and they can we can at least get rid of that type of cheating. We
But
can get rid of a few of the easier types, and if someone has this incredible spy technology with these
yeah,
undetectable things in their stomach or
well, you're
other body
saying
areas.
at least let's make it an arms race where you actually have to outsmart something. If it's just as, I mean, if all you need is having a device in your pocket and no one checks you, it's too easy in a way.
Yeah, I mean, and at those kind of tournaments at that level where there's,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not sure what the prize money was there, but
No,
and I
no.
think like I don't want to say it's not that people should have these cheating restrictions because hands is there, but they should have them to actually protect hands from accusations.
Yeah, yeah.
It's very easy to accuse people of having the opportunity when the opportunity is there. Whereas in London, my impression is that there's very little opportunities to do things, and it's okay.
I,
He's also playing a lot worse now. So.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I mean you can fit. I mean any kind of conspiracy theory can of course fit the narrative to anything, right? That's more or less a given. But
Yeah, but I mean, it is about protecting the players, and it's about protecting them from cheating. It's about protecting them from the fear of cheating. These are
yeah,
two
yeah.
different issues that need to be treated like super seriously.
I think we are both on the side where we think cheating is happening less than people think. But I think we also agree that, I mean, well, the worst thing is the fear and the unknown at the moment, right? All this paranoia going around. I mean, well, both, I mean, Kramnik is insisting that he didn't accuse Nakamura of cheating. The organizers are not willing to make a statement whether we saying we think this guy cheated, right? I mean, you can throw out insinuations, but it becomes weird, right? And it's a bad
Yeah,
situation. And you're saying it's bad for the players, it's bad for everybody.
yeah, and I think like cheating definitely is happening. Like
Hmm.
there's no question about that. But I do think the fear of cheating is it's not that it's more common because I mean it probably is, I guess. But the problem is it is actively more damaging because it's
Yeah.
basically like ruining Kramnik's reputation. Like I think Kramnik's reputation is probably taken a bigger hit than almost anyone's. And I think
Mm.
it's ruined some players' ability to play chess against certain players because I think some players have made accusations online against someone, and then when it comes to playing them over the board, their level of play
Hmm.
massively drops because they think this guy is cheating, and it's very difficult to play when you think
Yeah,
your
that
opponent's
that
cheating.
there is several cases of, right. I mean, well, also Magnus said that basically he freaked out because somehow these rules were not implemented in Qatar, right? And he said, well, there was. I think he was trying to say that okay, my opponent is not cheating, but I just couldn't control my mind in a way, right? And
Yeah, and like that's an actual real harm that's happening to players,
mhm.
whereas
Yeah, yeah,
the harm that's caused by people cheating is
yeah.
basically only financial, and I don't think it's a massive amount of money. Whereas, like people are kind of getting, but I mean, the solution is the same for both of them. Like, we need to be much stricter, and there needs to be. I think at some point, FIDE needs to step in and say, like, if the regulations are not followed that we give out, then like the tournament doesn't get rated.
But also, well, the measures cannot completely poison the environment. I know you are a fan of 15 minutes delay. For me, it's already somewhat poisonous for online things. I mean, it can, in a world championship match, if this actually finishes 15 minutes before we get the result, there'll always be somebody from the audience tweeting, "Okay, this guy is the new world champion," and then, well, you get spoiled from the most action. And well, if you start upping these measures, it also becomes very poisonous towards the players to some extent.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a trade off. I mean, I think for world championship matches, I would just have an embargo on anyone who's in an audience. They should have to give up their phone. The phone should be waiting outside, and they should wait to get the phone back. Minimum 15 minutes. Like
Well, world champ,
you go
yeah,
outside, you claim your phone, then you wait 15 minutes to get
I,
it back.
probably world championship matches. You are right. Also, there you will have spectator screens where you can see in and not out and things like this. I mean, maybe world championship matches there's so few players and so much resources that you can solve that. But open tournaments is gonna be tough, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, open tournaments don't have the in-person spectator issue as well. Like I don't. I
Well,
mean, if
they,
anything, an open tournament in-person spectators are a bit of a problem that
yeah.
organizers would rather not deal with. So, like,
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. No, some events they don't even. I think this some event in what's it? I forgot. Maybe the We Are Masters, right? They simply just didn't allow any spectators. Maybe
I
spectate.
think that's correct. Like, because I think it's very difficult to stop some. I mean, you can also just have members of the public wandering in and talking,
Uh
which is
huh.
like
Yeah,
because
yeah,
if they don't know that like what a chess tournament really is, like that can easily happen. It's just it's not necessary.
yeah. I have wondered why it doesn't happen more. To be honest, I mean, in the Bundesliga, I mean, now, of course, I'm well very supportive of Wolokitin from the political context. But well, we had an incident in our youth in Bundesliga where he was in time pressure and he was winning against me, but he didn't know what to do. and suddenly someone said something in a different language, and he made his move. And well, I made a protest, and it turned out it was his dad who says, "Make two more moves." And the only thing that happened was that his dad was later banned from watching the next match. And the argument was basically, well, he didn't do anything wrong. And there is some truth in that. But, well, even in a World Championship match, let's say one of the seconds goes in and shout, "Okay, you idiot, you should play Bishop F6 now." I don't know how they will punish the player.
Yeah, I mean that's difficult as well. Like, I mean, should you punish the player? Can you
I don't
tell
know.
the opponent if the player gets punished? Can you give the opponent advice? Like, I don't know.
Well,
Yeah,
also,
these are
but
weird
it
things.
just completely ruins the game, right? I mean, there's no
Mhm.
good solution, is the problem. And no, it happened. Luckily, it happens rarely. I think there is a Russian anecdote that I think he's dead now, the team captain. So let's not mention it. But he said basically he was bribing a young kid to pass by the window and shout, Bishop F5, right? And well, what do you do about that? And yeah, no, I think it's mainly anecdotal stories. But of course, we are vulnerable. And generally, I think the beauty of chess has also been that it's such an easy game to be an arbiter. There's not that many incidents. The players have high ethics. There's a very little cheating going on. And suddenly, we are not there anymore. Well, in other sports, we have very strong characters as arbiters. That's generally not the case in chess, right? It's generally quite easy to be the arbiter, but that unfortunately has changed, and we're not really used to that, and we can't really handle it.
Yeah, no, I agree, and it's a problem. It's not going away anytime soon, but it's I'm still of the opinion that it's not as bad as some people think it is.
Mm-hmm.
But that probably that's the people who think it's really bad. This is a big symptom of cheating online, and it's like I have actually spoken to people about this, and I think like solving it from that point of view, rather because I mean we can try to catch cheaters and we can dedicate all of our resources into catching cheaters, but we can also try to protect players and dedicate all of our resources into protecting players. And I'm leaning towards that being the appropriate response to like because there's obviously a lot of overlap between the two methods, but I
Mm-hmm.
think starting from the point of view that we need to like protect players from cheating and also accusations of cheating is maybe the way forward.
So you're basically saying you want to help players to get a cleaner reputation. You want to have measures that no one will accuse them of cheating.
Yeah, and so that they have no doubt that their opponent is
Yeah,
cheating, and then they
no,
can
that
just
that
play their best chess. Like because that's what we all want. We want the top players to focus on chess and do what they're good at.
I don't know if they have managed in cycling, but I mean, at some point, everybody thought everybody was doped. My feeling is now we are in a stage where we actually don't believe that they're doped, or
Yeah,
we
they're
just not.
hiding it a lot better now.
Maybe, yeah. No, I have no clue. I mean,
I don't know.
no. But it's basically, well, just trying to compare that now. At least, if you look at newspaper reports, they are not stating basically, okay, everybody is doped. Who cares,
Yeah,
right? I mean, they actually
that's true. So
they managed to move forward from that, and you want like something else similar to happen in chess, right?
yeah, I think so. I think keeping things as open as possible and
Mhm. Okay.
making sure that you just remove as many opportunities to cheat as possible, and
Hmm.
yeah, you can
Well,
set up this.
anyway, as you said, we will talk about cheating again later. Should we jump to something else? Is there something you would like to talk about?
We could talk about the rating system. That's one of
Okay.
my favorite topics in chess. The rating system.
Okay.
I really enjoy
There is some
ratings.
new rules. I mean, I'm this kind of guy. Does it affect me? No. Okay, I don't care. And you also too high rated to be affected, right?
Yeah, I'm slightly too high rated
Yeah, yeah. So basically,
to just
your
make the cut.
your
It's,
competitors gets closer. I think basically, if you're below 2,000, you will get some extra points, right?
yeah, it's so if you're rated 1,000, you go to 1,400. They're raising
Uh
the
huh.
floor for the bottom
Yeah.
ratings. So if you're under 1,400, sorry, you go
Yeah.
above 1,400. And then as you get closer to 2,000, you get fewer points.
It's
So players around 1,500 will get around 200 points.
Well, I thought it was basically up till 2,000. What is it? Well, as you said, if you have 1,000, you have 1,000 points up to 2,000, and you get 0.4 per point you're lacking. So you get 400 extra. So if
Yeah,
you are, well, 1,200,
that's
probably you
correct.
get 320 points extra, something like that. But I'm not going to do live maths here. I'm too old for that. But why are they doing it?
They believe that ratings have been deflated.
Okay.
I haven't really checked the maths on this. I mean, I only know kind of anecdotal stuff where people have. I mean, everybody thinks they're underrated anyway, so it's kind of
Not me, but okay. Yeah.
it's kind of difficult with anecdotes with these things. But yeah, there seems to be some evidence of rating deflation in the system.
Okay.
I think it's most visible at the top rather than at the bottom. It's been my impression because we. But I mean, we have two 2800 players now, but we for the past couple of years now we've had Magnus above 2800, and then there's been one guy.
But
Like,
you don't think
it's
that reflects strength?
are they getting weaker?
Relatively. I mean, Karana was stronger some years ago. It could be reflected that okay, we have these guys, and well, I mean, I thought it actually reflected the level they played at quite well. But I haven't thought it through. Well, I want to pop in another thought. I mean, but like in financial theory, they have this kind of trickle down effect, right? You give money to people at the top, and it
Mm-hmm.
sort of feeds the whole system. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying this theory exists. Will the opposite not happen here? If you push in a lot of rating in the bottom, is it not going to flow to the top and affect things there, or is not how it works?
God, I hope so.
You hope so. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I imagine it. Like, I don't understand. I mean, I'm not a maths guy for sure, but like,
No.
I don't understand why it wouldn't, because the people who get the bonuses are the people who I'll play next year.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll hopefully perform at this. If I perform at the same level, then my rating will go up, and then
Uh-huh.
the guys above me, their ratings will go up when they beat me, and so on and so on. So it seems to be by the end of next year,
Yeah.
a lot of these rating points should have transferred up to the
It will
top
take a
level.
while, and not, I mean, it's not like Magnus will be 3,200 because of that exactly. But yeah, yeah.
No,
No.
but he might be close to 2900 by the end of next year. Like, depending on how many games
I
he
doubt it's
plays.
that quickly, but let's see. Well, also before we diss the system too much, I mean, it's Jeff Sonas, at least their advertising has been involved. Jeff Sonas is sort of seen as the rating guru in the chess world. He did this chess metric sites
Mhm.
many years ago when he was sort of trying to make historical ratings. I think he has been involved in experiments with the rating system at some point. I think this site called Kaggle, which made sort of programming competitions, had a competition on who can make the best rating system to predict results based on some kind of data sets. And I think generally he's considered a leading expert and authority on the subject. So while
Yeah.
I'm very willing to diss FIDE for everything, I mean here they actually brought in some serious guys. So it is, at least speaking for myself, it's possible I haven't understood it properly. Well, you'll have to make your own conclusions,
Yeah.
but we
And
will
the,
see.
the, the other the other change they're making is they're bringing back the 400 point rule,
Uh huh.
so that if you play someone over 400 points below you, you still get 0.8 rating points.
Okay.
And they changed it so you could only get it once per tournament.
Uh
So
huh.
now they've removed that. So, and to me that one makes a lot of sense to bring that back, because I feel like, if a 2600 beats a 2200, I think to get 0 points for that is very strange.
Yeah, then at least you could make the rule that okay, 400 points and we just don't rate it. But I mean, if you only have risk and no reward, it becomes unreasonable, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Also, well, also not unreasonable. Also, it doesn't work for the system, right? Because your expected score is not 100. So,
Yeah, and
it,
also, like, these are very standard games in open tournaments. Like,
but I
this is.
thought the problem was at some point that there was someone who was exploiting the system. I mean, you would have some very strong player playing a very weak opponent like this. I think at some point in Team Vichy, we were joking that I should play a match with my 12-year-old nephew, and if I played 50 games, I would actually make the World Cup by rating or something like that, right?
Mhm.
And I think they were trying to avoid these kind of things. I think there was a few players who would, gain some elo points like that, but it seems like it's back. You say, yeah?
Yeah, I think there are ways to deal with those very isolated cases, and
Hmm.
and also, like, I mean, personally, I've played in leagues where there'll be maybe one 2300 guy, and the rest of us are like, around 2000.
Uh-huh.
And year after year, he plays for his team and he wins, nine wins and a draw or 10
Yeah,
wins.
yeah, yeah.
And he's just a guy who plays for his chess club. Like he enjoys it as a social activity. I don't think it's that uncommon for, like a title player to play in his local league, 10 games a year or so, just as a social thing. And I don't
Well,
think they should necessarily be punished, even though their rating is gradually going up and up and up every year.
I would also assume that we have data on these kind of things where we can check, okay, what is actually the percentile score of someone with that rating against someone on that level, and so on, and could sort of see if it's a major problem. But
Yeah.
the way we describe it, it's not like they have completely changed the rating system. We are still talking rather small details.
Well, I mean, 200 points is quite a
Yeah,
lot, I
fair
think.
enough.
But we'll see if that affects the whole rating
Yeah, sorry
thing.
again. I understand. I have an elitist view. It's not something that's going to influence massively on the top 100, or well, we don't know yet.
Yeah, we don't know. I mean, I assume smarter people have
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
figured these things
yeah.
out.
Well,
But yeah, I mean, my only kind of real experience with it was when at the last Olympiad, when I was coach for the Jersey women's team.
uh-huh.
We did play some games against very low rated players who were definitely hugely underrated. My feeling at the time was that they just hadn't had enough FIDE rated games rather than it being a rating system problem. It was generally teams from Africa
Hmm.
that didn't have a ton of games over the
But
board, but
that
then you look online and they're like 2200, and
but
it's
that
like,
could easily be regional problems, right? I
yeah,
mean,
that was my feeling at the
yeah,
time, that it was just a regional thing. But yeah, I think though their ratings would be much closer now to their real strength, so it
yeah. It's
solves
like
part of the problem at least.
it's like playing Indian juniors or playing the Chinese championship. I mean, well, tough luck. It's not going to help your rating. I
Yeah,
mean, yeah. Mhm. So
yeah.
okay, fair enough. What else
Okay.
do we have? Well, the candidates tournament qualification is kind of an interesting situation. I don't know why I followed it because A, Magnus is qualified, B, he's not going to play. But I mean, it's still
Are we
something.
100% sure he's not going to play? Because I think he's been given a lot of mixed messages about this. I don't think he's
Okay,
been very clear about whether he wants to play or not. So,
I thought he said that at least with this current system, no. And it's like, didn't he say 99% at some point
okay, but what does he really mean by that?
that he's not going to play? I think that's my impression.
So you're saying there's a chance?
Well, okay, there is always a chance that, I mean, but no, I don't think so. I think it's a smaller chance that then he would actually have defended his title the last time. So, so I think no, I
Yeah.
cannot. I cannot imagine it. I mean, if you, I mean, uh, the candidates tournament is rather soon. I haven't spent 1 second considering how should Magnus prepare for this event. That
Okay,
might,
but what
maybe
if?
I can be sacked for giving out such details, but
But what if
yeah,
he goes to Toronto now for the Champions Chester final?
uh
By the
huh.
time this has been published, he'll be there, I should assume. He really, really falls in love with the city of Toronto. And he thinks, okay, I've got nothing else going on in April. I could get 3 weeks there for free. FIDE will pay for my flights, hotel. Maybe I'll win some prize money. He treats it like a vacation and then wins the tournament.
You don't think that A, he can pay for himself if we wanted him to run to B, I mean,
No,
we
I'm sure he has the money, but
yeah,
like maybe he just, he's a
yeah,
sensible guy. He's
and he would rather play than he want to be a commentator and something like this. Yeah, I don't know.
Nah, commentator's more work. Like you
Yeah,
don't get a rest day when you want a quick draw, or
yeah, I promise you, I have tried both. The stress level is less, at least, or maybe I'm just a bad commentator, but that's how I recall it. But,
yeah, but you're there till the end of every day, so
I understand, and trust me, I was trying not to be as a player, but even so, I mean, the feelings before and after the games are nicer in many ways. I mean, you're
yeah.
not, your body is not aching with stress and things like this. But well, we're distracting the subject. No, I don't think there's a chance. But also, okay, now I got tricked into a topic that's not really my favorite. But well, you're a
No,
tricky guy. But I cannot imagine it. I mean, well, also, well, one can Google any kind of quote from him. I think basically he's not gonna play. So I mean, it was also would be very weird to get out of it and then try to get back in immediately. But
Yeah. Okay, but the main story is the two spots that are
yeah,
left for the candidates. So we have a FIDE circuit spot, which Anish Giri is in the lead for currently, and we have a rating spot which Wesley is.
so the circuit spot. Right now, there's a tournament happening in London, right? And
Mhm.
Gukesh needs to win it to overtake Anish, but he needs to win it without a playoff. Is that understood correctly?
Yeah, he needs clear first.
But there is a playoff in the tournament, but that's not enough because then they split some of the points. Or
Yeah, I actually don't know. I don't know how
no, I
that
thought
works. That doesn't make sense to me, but yeah.
no, but maybe there is a rule that if it's a playoff or a tiebreak, then half of the points is split and the other half is decided by tiebreak. So maybe he needs to win it outright. Gukesh has been doing incredibly well, but he blundered in a winning position against Jules Moussin from France.
Mhm.
So now Adams is leading half a point ahead of a bunch of players.
Yep.
And basically, well, in 4 rounds, Gukesh needs to make 1 point more than Adams and half a point more than the rest. Not easy, not impossible.
No, he's got 4 games left. He plays Luke McShane today. Then he does play the lowest rated player in the field, Shreyas Royal,
Uh-huh.
who's an international master. But he has black, so that makes it slightly
You
trickier.
can
Then
argue
he,
both ways that that's the chance to
yeah,
win more games. I mean,
but then he plays Tabatabai with white, and he finishes against Hans Niemann.
that could be a thriller, yeah?
Yeah,
Yeah, who knows? I mean, that's possible. But also, because of these chances, at least we assume so. And again, we are the leading podcast. I think that wasn't this news story broken in our episode with Elyanov that he's playing this tournament, right? I think so. No.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know
So,
if anyone actually noticed, but
no, no, but that just it's a lesson learned for them. But we actually
yeah,
broke that he's playing a tournament, and this means Gukesh has another tournament he could win at the end of the year, right?
yeah, he's got at least one more tournament because I
Yeah.
don't know if there'll be. There might be another one.
But what is the minimum? It has to be 8 players. How many
Yeah,
days can it be done in?
I think he still has time for 1 game a day after this one.
Okay, okay. Yeah, who knows? I'm
But
also
even then, I
curious.
think I don't see why you would need. You could play 2 FIDE rated games in a day. A
Yeah,
lot
so
of the
you can
FIDE
do
circuit games
it
tournaments, I
in
think, are.
basically 4 days. Yeah. So I was also wondering. Let's say Gukesh actually wins outright in London. I mean, then suddenly this tournament means someone else can catch him. Maybe they will cancel it then. Sort of. I mean, that would be.
No, I don't think anyone can.
I'm not from that field. No.
No, so I thought it was interesting actually because they have invited players with something to gain from the tournament, which I think is quite good of them
Uh
because
huh.
I think is it's clear the tournament is there for Gukesh. Like that's
Yeah.
why they've put this tournament together. But they have also invited Dominguez and Parham Maksudli,
Uh
who
huh.
are both in the running for the rating spot.
Mm-hmm.
So like and you can create a tournament where no one has anything to gain
Yeah.
except Gukesh.
I mean,
Whereas
yeah.
that's not going to be the case. Dominguez will be highly motivated to at
How many
least
players is in the event?
8.
They have a problem. Imagine if Dominguez wins games one and then he falls ill. Then Dominguez
It's,
qualifies for candidates by rating, and Gukesh cannot win it because there's only 7 players left.
yeah, well, it wasn't clear. So Dominguez needs to play a FIDE circuit tournament
Uh huh.
to be eligible for the rating spot, but it's not clear by the regulations what it means to play a FIDE circuit tournament. Does that mean you need to play 1 game? Does that mean you need to
Yeah.
play more than 50% of the games? Or do you have to complete the whole thing? Like, it's really not clear what is
No. Also,
required.
well, as we saw during St. Louis, or shortly afterwards, they suddenly FIDE issued a so-called clarification of the rules, right? Which, at least according to some, was changing the rules, if I understood it correctly.
Yeah, I don't think that was a good idea to clarify rules like
No.
that at such a late stage.
No.
Because I don't think there's any harm of Dominguez playing another tournament in the US. Like,
That was also my impression. And the point is that, well, to win the FIDE circuit, you need to play something abroad. But to qualify for winning the racing spot, it's not that specified in a way. But anyway, it seems like Dominguez is not taking any chances, so he's actually going to play in
Yeah,
India
and
soon,
also
right?
Dominguez did play in the World Cup.
Yeah.
So like it's not like
Okay,
all of
okay.
his tournaments. Like I can understand the logic of you don't want someone to just organize a bunch of tournaments in their
Yeah.
backyard, but
Hmm.
like he did play the World Cup. That's where a lot of his points came from. Like,
Yeah. Fair enough. And Wesley So, he's just going to sit quietly and let Dominguez overtake him, I guess.
yeah, it's very strange, and also Ali Reza only needs I think 8 points,
Yeah.
or am
I
I
think so.
wrong?
Something like 8 points. Yeah. Maybe, I don't know if 7 would actually be enough for a tie and then qualify, but yeah. It also
Yeah,
seems weird if he's not going to give it some effort, but
yeah, he needs only 7 points to
can
catch Wesley.
and he can just play. I mean, anything basically. Well, also Geary, for instance. Let's imagine Geary plays Bundesliga and wins 2 games. I don't know if that's going to be enough for him, but I mean,
But
as long.
they've missed the Bundesliga games.
Okay, so then you play Dutch league or French league or whatever exists, or you play a weekend tournament or something like that. I don't know, but they can
Mhm.
basically arrange things up till the end. Can you just make a tournament, or you actually need to sort of get something kind of permission?
I think for the rating spot, you can just play games.
Basically, that's the
Like
national
you can.
federation has the right to do it. They don't need to announce it in advance or something like this.
No, I don't think so. That is
Okay,
my impression. But there are open tournaments, all over the
that is true,
world at
of
all
course. Yeah.
times. I mean, Sunway Sitges has been mentioned
Hmm.
as a tournament where people can definitely play, and it is in the FIDE circuit, so there will be some points there.
But
I don't think anyone has entered Sunway Sitges because the other thing is that there is a couple more players who have a shot at the rating spot.
but
So,
only marginally, right? I mean,
mm, I mean, Vincent Keimer needs 14 points.
14 points is a lot, right? I mean, let's say you play Sitges. I mean, it's not like you start with 5 out of 5 and you won 14 points. I think that's not going to be enough, right? You're going to need,
Yeah, he's probably going to need +6 out of the 10 games, is my
yeah,
guess. Maybe plus
I'm
7,
not
but
sure.
also.
+6 is not going to be enough, is it? That's
No, you're
only
probably
like,
because that's 4 draws.
yeah,
You probably need +7, I guess.
yeah. I mean, this is,
But like you can't get the spot unless you play something.
that is a reason. Well, you need to be very lucky that they lose a bunch of rating, but yeah, it's probably not going to happen. Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, for me personally, I think everyone who is serious about this should be playing.
Something, that is.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, also it depends how important you find qualifying for the candidates, but somehow it's pretty important, right? I mean,
I mean, I guess there's some questions about how important Wesley finds it. I mean, I
that
think
I can
Fabiano
follow.
said that he's very confident Wesley won't play again this
No,
year.
I mean, well, also you saw Wesley in St. Louis. Sure, he wanted to draw against Caruana because then basically he wins the tournament and qualifies for candidates. He mixes up 2 moves in the opening, he's dead lost. Then he needs to win the next game to Nepom to catch up, and that would effectively mean qualification. He doesn't even try. I mean, this is a must-win game to qualify for the candidates, and he plays well-known drawing lines and draws in 20 minutes. Okay, then you don't care, right? I mean,
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's the most important thing in the world
of course,
to
he
him.
could argue that now he's secured that he's number one on rating, but I mean, we assume someone will overtake him. Actually, Gira is only 8 points behind, so
Yeah, I mean, Anish hasn't announced that he's playing in anything, so
no.
I would be very surprised if Anish, Alireza, and Vincent don't play anything at all. Like to
Well,
me, that's
Anish can
strange.
wait a bit, but you're arguing that, well, it's for free. I mean, he's not going to improve his Grand Circuit standing, so he can just as well try for the other one, right?
Yeah, so Anish is in the lead for the FIDE circuit. It's not secure because Gukesh can win a tournament and overtake him.
But only him, right?
Basically, only him. There's still the World Rapid and Blitz to come at the end of the year, and some people can make some points there, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be enough.
No. I think they were mentioning, if World Rapid and Blitz happens, of course, should some guy win both, he's actually going to collect a lot of points, right? But
No, that's not true.
Not true?
No,
Okay.
you only get one non-standard event.
Okay, so you need to win probably, and probably Rapid gives more points than Blitz, so you need to win. I mean, maybe they were mentioning if Irigaisi become World Rapid Champion, he would get close, or maybe Abdul Sattarov or something like that. But
I think Erigaisi, maybe if he wins, Erigaisi is playing in the India
as well,
tournament,
okay. Mhm.
and then maybe if he wins World Rapid,
Yeah,
possibly.
yeah, but okay. We are talking
But I think actually World Rapid and Blitz are both very poor attempts
because I
to.
think the factor is 0.6, the multiplier, while Classical gives 1, and it basically devalues it massively in terms of Grand Prix.
Yeah, but also like I think it's very much. It's not just a lottery, but it's a very difficult lottery to win.
Yeah, yeah,
Like I think
of
Gukesh
course.
plays these two round robins. I think his chances of winning one are maybe not super high, but I don't know,
No.
25% something.
Also, if anything,
But
I would argue that the circuit favors closed event, right? I mean, if you take the top 8 rated player of a closed event with 8 players, or you take top 8 players of an event with 100 strong players, obviously the latter one is much more difficult to win than the first, right? And this
yeah,
is not really counted for in some way.
but yeah, but like winning World Rapper, especially that Magnus is
Yeah,
playing,
yeah.
and you need clear first basically to get enough points. It's
Anyway, it's kind of chaotic.
yeah.
I generally don't really like it. I think other sports would have a much clearer format. I think maybe also, it favors people who can get someone to dig up 2 close grandmaster tournaments like Gukesh here in the end. But to say it's not exciting would be wrong.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely exciting, and obviously Gukesh has a big advantage over others at the moment. But also, like they did invite people who are very motivated, like
Yeah, yeah.
Dominguez and Parham.
I agree. They are not making it embarrassing. I haven't done the math, but basically, you could figure out okay, Gukesh needs to win an event of 8 players with this average. And then you take the FIDE list, and then you choose me, Fressinet, maybe Gustav is too good in shape. But you can start handpicking players to get the exact same number. And I mean,
Yeah, and I mean even from like I think you need quite a strong kind of top eight. So, but even from the 2,700 plus players, like you can definitely pick guys that are not
yeah, yeah.
don't have anything to gain except for a nice
Well, you can
tournament.
argue Dominguez probably will start. He will just be happy making +1 or +2, whatever is required for him to gain this 2 rating points, right?
Yeah, I
But
should I should imagine so. And also,
something.
I think it would be incredibly rude for him to win the first game and withdraw. It'd be very funny, but
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think he would be invited back to the country of India ever again.
No, no. I mean, well, at some point I played this youth versus veterans in the Netherlands. I was actually on the veterans teams, despite being many years ago. And Giri and Nakamura was fighting to qualify for this Melody Amber tournament.
Mhm.
And Giri was leading, but I beat him in the last tournament. And some said, "Yeah, yeah, well, congratulations with your win, and well, we'll never see you again, right?" Because I beat the local guy. Well, I think the tournament probably finished, so it was not really relevant in that sense. But and they invited Giri anyway. But I get your point that it becomes well. There is something wrong with organizing events. It's like they stop being events for their own sake. They are basically all about this, right?
Yeah, and I mean this is where we can finally criticize FIDE.
Yes.
Um, this is the problem with outsourcing a big part of the cycle to not just another organizer, because like I think FIDE can outsource things to another organizer. For example, if there was a qualification spot from the Grand Chess Tour, that would have gone to Fabi.
Yeah, yeah.
If there was one for the Champions Chess Tour, that would likely go to whoever's playing in Toronto this weekend. It's going to be someone very strong, and I think having it kind of clear like that would be okay. But outsourcing it to just whoever wants to organize a tournament and like basically more or less no restrictions is going to make things very messy. And
No, I feel that it's almost parasitic to the events that St. Louis. Well, I mean, I don't know if they even asked permission for St. Louis. Can we use your event for this? But basically, the focus was how is this sort of what is the implication for candidates tournament? Like, who's going to win this event? Well, basically, no one cared, right? And I don't know how it is for those who actually paid for this event. That suddenly they become a sideshow in the candidate qualifications rather than an event of their own. Or maybe it's just cool for them. I don't know.
yeah, I mean, it's not clear that organizers are
No.
upset about it or anything. I'm sure that for most organizers, it's probably a nice little bonus for
Mhm.
them. But yeah, it does seem to be that if you're going to have a serious world championship cycle, then you need to actually have control over the qualifying events. And at the moment, FIDE doesn't. I mean, with the rating spot, it's always going to be a little bit complicated because that includes all events.
Maybe you need to have similar system for qualification for Mr. Dodgy, right? That I mean, okay, so St. Louis is gonna decide who gets the spot. You're not gonna give away your dictatorial rights there, no?
No, it's definitely not something that I would do.
Okay.
But also, Fabi mentioned that it's kind of insane that the rating spot is decided by one rating list rather than the average of 12 as it used to be.
Well, average of 12 didn't work either because the
The,
first list becomes much more important than the latter list.
yeah, but I mean, you can weigh it differently throughout the year.
I
So,
generally agree that there must be some good way to solve it. I mean, this one also, well, we end up in these artificial situations where we can calculate till the end. We're going to sit there with our spreadsheets and we will make artificial events, right? I
mhm.
mean, maybe you could argue let the World Cup be the last counting tournament, and then everybody can play. Maybe then you start getting knocked out on purpose. I don't know, but I mean,
Yeah, it's not perfect, but this definitely leads to kind of the most chaotic outcome, which I'm not entirely against. I think it's entertaining, but
I understand it's not doesn't make us look very serious as a sport, but maybe who cares? I mean, it's
yeah,
not it's
this
not boring.
that's true. So I was going to ask you if you were to advise one of the say 2740 players who have a chance at the rating spot but need to do something. What would you advise them to do this month? Let's say, like, I don't know, either Vincent or Parham. What do you think would maximize their chances to get to the candidates? Because I don't think it's super clear. Like, you can't crush, a bunch of 2600s in a row on demand, but you still need, 15 points. So, like, how do you do it?
Yeah. Well, also, I mean, it sounds like Sitges is the best you can find. I mean, well, I think first of all you need to find something, right, where you have any kind of realistic scenario. And again, we get into this kind of situation you spoke about with Nakamura playing. That well, if your clear target is to win as much rating as possible, maybe you can give it a shot. And but I mean, the point is, Kamer has to win 14 points. Maybe Max Sotlo, something similar. It's a lot. If you start an
Yeah.
open tournament, even if you play a 2600 guy, you win 3 points. You have to beat 5 in a row. That's not easy.
Yeah. I
The best
wondered,
they
is
can
it?
do is to play a match against each other, to be honest.
Yeah, that's maybe true.
I'm not joking. Suddenly, that's actually a good
Well,
idea. I mean,
yeah. Well, Parham's actually played in the India tournament, so he has one, but
uh-huh.
Vincent hasn't. I don't know if Vincent's going to play anything. I actually wondered if it's legal to arrange a match where one player plays white in every game.
I don't know.
Because like
Yeah,
obviously there's ways to
yeah,
games can be fixed, but I don't think that's a route we should go down. But
no.
to maximize the chances, if Vincent was to play, some 2650 Grandmaster, but he gets white in 6 games in a row,
You
is
mean
that legal?
some exhibition? Probably, I would assume there is some kind of restrictions in the rules, but I don't know.
Because
To be,
it can happen if you play like league games, for example.
yeah, yeah, there you
Your
do. I
board changes,
mean,
and you can get the team can give you white in every game.
then it becomes a strategy at least, and that's. I mean, John Nunn scored some amazing result, and probably he had 9 whites. I think also Arakamia, sorry, became a grandmaster, and for Scotland, she made her last norm, and she got quite some whites, if I recall correctly. I really don't sort of criticize me if I remember wrong, but
Mhm.
this can be done. But if you can do it in a tournament like this, but what they did some years back, and I remember discussing it with Stuart Rubin, is that well, they wanted to have Hastings wanted to have a knockout tournament, but with a lot of rounds in a number of times. So they had
Mhm.
1 game knockouts, meaning that White maybe had 90 minutes and Black had 60 minutes, but White needed to win. But
Mhm.
they rated the games anyway. So maybe there is. I mean, they said, okay, you don't need to have the. I mean, well, the rating. the time allowance has to be within the framework of FIDE's rule for classical chess. But there's nothing saying you need to have the same amount of time. That
Yeah,
puzzled me
and
a bit.
that's even better because he needs to win all the games
Yeah, that's
anyways.
yeah. You're saying okay. He gets 8 hours and the white pieces against 60 minutes and no increment. Yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like it would be interesting to see because I mean you can play those genuine games as well.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
a 2650 is going to have a hard time against Vincent with six
Well,
blacks
also,
in
I
a row, but
mean, I think what Ding did was fine. He needed all these games, but I mean, they were arranged for one purpose only, right? And
yeah, but that's different because that was just to play enough games. That
maybe
wasn't the results
it
didn't
didn't matter. I mean,
matter.
he could not lose an insane amount of elo, but that was more or less it, right? Something
Yeah.
like this. Yeah,
And
yeah.
also, and the other players in that tournament drew every single game amongst each other. So
Yeah. That sounds. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if it's
No,
possible. I think
it's not ideal, and that's also. I mean, it would be better that, let's say, the tournament list of eligible tournaments was published 2 months in advance. But well, at least now it's a great content. But I don't know if a World Championship cycle should be like. I cannot imagine FIFA qualifying for a World Cup like this, right? But,
yeah, I feel like there are more potential loopholes than is
I
maybe sensible. I think it's okay to have one or two, but this seems like an absurd amount of loopholes that you
yeah,
can
yeah. Let's see. I
figure out.
mean, if on the 28th of December someone decides, okay, I really need these 7 games, and quickly has a weekend tournament, right? I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it
I
can.
doubt. My hunch is that again, chess players are generally quite decent. They have some decent sense of justice, so I don't think anything outrageous is going to happen. But who knows? But of course, theoretically speaking, we could have a game on the 31st of December where some guy plays white against a 1900 players and need to win his 1 elo point, right? And then yeah, that's just it.
I mean, yeah, that's what Dominguez should have done.
That
Just
would be.
scheduled one game on the
That is
31st of
true. He could
December.
just have played his home league against literally Patzes, right? Yeah.
I mean, he needed a FIDE circuit event as well, so
That he needed. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this could still happen. He could finish the tournament on exactly the same rating.
Also, is it possible that someone can play an event under the radar? I mean, there could be some event that is legally federated, but they don't publish it and anything like this, and then suddenly, oops, there was some guy who's
Yeah,
won.
I was also kind of curious about this because the Indian tournament didn't get announced until very late, and I wondered if they were deliberately not promoting it. And then I wondered, like with Samway Seat Chess, if a player asked to be enter the tournament and but not put on the entry list until the day of the tournament,
Yeah.
would that be allowed? And I heard a similar thing happened last year in what I'm not sure if it was Sitges or if it was one of the other tournaments in Spain. But Hans Niemann played a couple of tournaments and he asked not to be published on the website until the event started because he didn't want to be like harassed by people. He didn't want
Mm-hmm.
people kind of following him around and stuff, which is totally reasonable. So I was just curious if like someone will appear on some random tournament and just as soon as the event starts, oh yeah, they're here.
Well, some of these events, at least I recall, have the rule that you can enter 2 hours before the start, right? And then you
Mm-hmm.
just come there. Of course, well, someone who is relevant for candidates would normally expect a fee, but this is an extraordinary situation, right? So if you say if Kmart just shows up in Sitges and says, but by the way, I would like to register for this event. I say, sure. What's your rating? 2740. Okay, and then they,
Yeah. Okay, you get a discount,
yeah,
€10 off.
yeah, something like this. Okay, but late entry fee, yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I mean
No,
it'll be a very interesting month.
yeah.
There's definitely a lot more chess
Again,
than we expected. So
I'm generally against it, but it's good content. I mean, it's gonna be exciting, and we'll see.
yeah, okay.
Okay. I mean, we basically didn't criticize FIDE for the first hour, but well, that's more or less it.
Now we got some digs in. That's the main thing.
Okay, good. So, okay, see you next week. Thanks for
Okay.
listening, both of you. Yep.
See you
Bye.
next week, everyone. Bye bye.